Google's Gemini AI and Meta's AI have had trouble providing images of white people. Gemini stated pictures of white people reinforce harmful stereotypes, and Meta AI claimed it couldn't generate such images, producing images of other races instead. By the way, Malik, do you have some of the actual images that they wanted to pull up, such as what the Vikings looked like or what the Nazis looked like? These are the Vikings, guys. Here's some of the...
Familiar.
America's founding fathers, Vikings, and the Pope, according to Google. Now, you don't have to be born in America to know that George Washington,
was black.
Dare I say it, was a black guy. Thank you.
Wasn't he also
White
in
guy.
a Confederate outfit?
Maybe.
The black
So,
Washington?
That's where,
You know,
that's where it is.
ultimately, why do you guys think that AI, specifically Google's Gemini, has gone completely woke? Look at these images. Look at that Nazi, that black Nazi right there. Or the, what does that look like? A black
Looks like The
or
Rock is what it
Native
looks like.
American Viking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These were all white people. It's very clear that DEI and the woke agenda, dare I say it, is just anti-straight white men. Jake, you talk a lot about this on your channel, Rattlesnake TV. Give me a little insight from your perspective.
Well, to me, it almost seems like a flex. It almost seems like them saying, we're just going to sort of program you guys out. And one might say it looks very Orwellian on the surface of it. The fact that they sort of control the present, they control the future, whoever controls AI, because make no mistakes, AI is the future. Whatever's happening in that world at the moment is the future. So we can sort of sit here and complain about it all day, and then this will sort of go missing next week. Or, as conservatives, we can do what the liberals do, and we can take action about it. And we can have a little bit of power and a little bit of control in this regard. Because it's clear that whoever controls this at the moment, this unbelievably powerful tool, we're in a technological revolution at the moment whereby they are able to literally program you out of history. And if this is what we're using moving forward over the next few years, and if this does become the forefront of technology, and they have the ability to just program people out of history like that, that's concerning. So it does seem like a little bit of a flex to me. The one redeeming factor I will say about this is that Google did come out and somewhat apologize. They said, I believe the quote, they didn't hit the mark, which doesn't fill me with confidence, but they did come out and apologize in a way. But yeah, like I said, this is a massive, massive deal. We're entering a technological revolution in terms of AI and how that's going to affect our culture. So I would like to talk about a little bit more the way forward, the things that we're going to do moving forward, because we can sit here and complain about it. We've seen a lot of anti-white sentiment over the past, few years at least. This is not something that's new to people who have been paying attention, but yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about what we're going to do moving forward.
Okay, what's your suggestion of what we should do moving forward?
Well, as somebody who's pretty conservative, as we say, I think that the liberals are very good at taking action. So, for example, if you look at Silicon Valley, these guys are in the positions of power where they're moving the levers at places like not so much Twitter anymore, but Facebook and Meta and all of these places. If you go there, it's going to be quite a liberal-dominated place. And I'm not even hating on them for that, because they're mobilizing, and that's kind of what you should be doing. But as conservatives, moving forward, we should be thinking, how can we impact the culture? We should be mobilizing, and we should be, taking back some of the power, if you will.
Yeah, and to give some credence to what you were saying, Google has temporarily disabled Gemini, acknowledging that it needs to address bias and discrimination in AI. And I'll just pose this question. You're saying that AI is the future.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And I don't think anybody disagrees with that. It's like, there was a famous story about, Bill Gates having conversations with Steve Jobs and, leading business executives and thought leaders. And they were basically saying, and this was probably in the early 90s, like, listen, if you're not on the internet, you're going to be left in the dustbins of history. And some people took notice and did something about it. And some people waited around. They weren't early adopters. And we all know that the people who were early adopters on the internet are billionaires now. So, Kyla, you're proudly liberal, progressive, but you're also very reasonable. So Google shutting down and disabling temporarily Gemini. You're also white.
That's true.
I don't know if you noticed that. I don't know if you've seen a mirror recently.
To point that out,
What are your thoughts on what's going on with AI? I'm sure you agree that AI is the future, But what happens if you were left out of the future?
I think like saying like it's writing history out is just like probably, no offense, but I think it's an overstatement. It's not like our historians and like archaeologists and like these entire massive institutions of like history writing are going to disappear overnight. What it more so is it's super cringe Silicon Valley like Californians who are so out of touch with like the rest of the world that they thought for a second that that would be appropriate. Just so you guys know, most other left-leaning like internet like Breaking Points covered this story today and they were like laughing. They're like, this is way too PC and cringe. Like it's embarrassing. So it's like
left-leaning?
I am left-leaning.
No,
And they're extremely left-leaning.
With Saga and Crystal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought Saga was a conservative.
Yeah, but she's a Crystal and they were both, she's a liberal and she's was laughing at it, right? So both of them, there's a lot of liberals that are openly being like, this is embarrassing. Like, this is cringe. This is not what we want. I just don't know if it's as extreme as far as like, they're trying to write us out of history. I think it's more so that there's been like an ideological capture in California and Silicon Valley, which is to your point. I think it's actually really important that conservatives stop being like, oh, media's bad and like we should, just do labor, and they need to like go to college, they need to get like into social media races, they need to start making media companies. I'm for that because that's how like ideas wrestle one another. So I'm definitely for conservatives writing, but I don't know if I'd say like Gemini in and of itself is like this big red flag, because it seems like robustly the reaction has been negative. I mean, Vikings were just like, they were just white. Nobody's like shocked by this, and I don't know.
So, speaking about conservative and more right-leaning and left-leaning, and I appreciate your saying that if you're in the middle, you kind of get run over. Well, as somebody that is in the middle, I get run over a lot. But I think overall, I'm in the middle, but there's situations I'm very far right on, and there's situations I'm pretty far left on, libertarian, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, dude, smoke all the freaking weed you want. I don't think anybody should be arrested for that. But on the right side of things, dude, leave the freaking kids alone when it comes to the tranny stuff. I don't want any men playing with women. Jerk Nowitzki went viral the other day because he's out there playing with women. So it's an issue by issue thing. But here's what's undeniable. Speaking of Google, so we're talking about the Gemini. This isn't so much AI, but AI helped us find this information. Google News bias, I don't know if you could pull this up, Malik, it's skewed even further left, with 63% coming from liberal media sources, because Google News is an aggregator, it's a news aggregator, right? With only 6% coming from the right. This is a New York Post story, right? And there's news out there that, in universities, I think it's 13 to 1, as much as 16 to 1 liberal professors for every one conservative professor. So they certainly have a monopoly on what we talk about, the woke mind virus out there, and what's going on with that. So in 2023, 63% of Google News articles were sourced from liberal sources, 6% were right-leaning. 6%, I mean, the margin of error is 2 to 3% in general. So yeah, there it is right there. 8 of the top 10 news sites arranged by Google's were left-leaning. Google only displayed 6% of Reuters and 5% of Fox News articles. So we all know that that Fox News is obviously more right-leaning. Reuters, I would just sort of put as sort of like a Wall Street Journal, probably like center-right type of this news site. But Google News displayed a consistent left-leaning bias across the following issues: abortion, climate change, economy. I get sort of laughed at, clowned. I'm like, oh, just Google it. They have the answer there. And people are like, Google's woke, bro. What are you doing? You can't Google it. And then there's other sites out there that I forget the name of the site. DuckDuckGo. I'm like, listen, bro, I ain't DuckDuckGoing information. I'm sorry. I'm going to Google the information. Okay?
I wonder how long those numbers have been like that. Like, I wonder how long we've been so left. How, like, when was that turning point where it's been? Yeah, I know it's increased, but I wonder when was that mark where we were kind of equal?
Well, Malik, just see if you can find out what the article says regarding that without pulling it up, Malik. But Amy, I want to get your thoughts on this. Google, when you go to look at something, how about, I won't even say Google something because I almost said the word Google, right? That's like, hey, I'm going to go Uber somewhere, even though you're taking a Lyft.
Yeah.
Do you go on DuckDuckGo or are you Googling?
Or Bing?
No, I'm Google.
You're not Binging? You're not Yahooing? Okay, so as a conservative, or as a pretty conservative, you're aware that the results are going to be a little more left-leaning. Did you know that? How do How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of my research off Twitter primarily. That's where I start researching the news, and I may go to Google to like back up certain things, or if I just need to search something like very fast on the go. But I'm very aware of the left-leaning bias that's in media, that's in AI. Yeah, you'd have to be living under a rock to have not noticed that. And if I could really quick, to Kyla's point, like I do agree that the majority of liberals would look at what's gone down with Gemini recently and think that it's totally ridiculous and not reflective of their party. But I think it's also the way you address it was a little bit dismissive of the fact that like this is your side and this is the logical conclusion played out to the extreme level that that side is willing to go to. And it begs the question, if Elon Musk's AI came out and we asked it, would you be able to generate pictures of Aboriginals or Native Americans? Do you think it would make them white? I don't think so. And I think it really highlights the fact that there's two sides. And while there is a lot of nuance in the middle, I do consider myself centrist in some regards. But I think there's a reason that it's been assigned facts over feelings. There's one side that are very much in their feelings, and there's one side that are very much concerned with facts. And when you see that play out to its most ridiculous conclusion, as in the case with Gemini AI, and we would have flipped the scripts and apply it to a conservative version, I don't think we would see the same level of lunacy playing out.
Kyla, your response to Amy, who is putting all the blame of AI and Gemini on you, squarely on you.
It's actually I actually made Gemini.
As the developer of AI, how do you respond to Amy?
As a developer of Gemini, just in case somebody doesn't understand that that's a joke, I'm not. I guess I would basically agree that the left won the social cultural war. I think that's self-evident. Probably like 2016, like Gamergate-esque is when we really started to see a surge of like leftism. The issue is that while there's a little bit of like leftist parasitic, I guess I don't feel like a need to own these like natural conclusions of tankies and leftists who I've been fighting against the entire time, right? And so it's like, I agree that the left has been bad at policing its own. That's why I've stayed left. Dominantly, not exclusively, because I believe in my liberal values, but yeah, the left has been really bad at policing its own, particularly in like getting obsessed with like liabilities when it comes to like offending people. I think it's really embarrassing how like processors are just like constantly afraid of any level of risk, right? And so it's complicated, but it's complicated even more by the fact that oftentimes the people pursuing the highest levels of like education and achievement often tend to also be left-leaning, and so it creates this burden of responsibility on a party that essentially is like, well, if you're outperforming consistently, you need to be like more mindful. I don't know if I'd buy that.
Sorry, could you clarify what you meant by that? You mean people who like are generally in the higher income brackets, higher level of education? Like,
I would say almost all of the above. Outperforming in media performance, outperforming in like industriousness and entrepreneurship, and outperforming in education.
But is that because that's where people are not naturally gravitating, or is it because there is some type of a built-in agenda behind it where, and nowadays it's actually manifested as DEI, where specifically they're focusing in on a certain group? Like, don't you think there may have been an undercurrent of that in the culture building up until now, which has actually led to the ratification of this stuff in legislation now?
The problem is that it probably occurred naturally at first, which is people high in openness to experience tend to always fall left. They also tend to be entrepreneurs, and they also tend to pursue higher education, right? In fact, we can pretty much determine your political leaning by a fair bit of genetics. It seems almost as heritable as height and IQ. And so, yeah, it is really interesting. And so I think, has what happened on the left been like this in-group bias that's occurred? Yes, absolutely. Has there been like some crazy loud people that we've been too afraid to say no to? Yes, absolutely. Right? I've been vocally against these people my entire career and before my career. The issue is that for me as a left-leaning person is to get the right parasiting all of us. And it's like, well, I'm not really part of this group. I don't own tankies. They aren't my people. I'm not interested in them. Just like I would say conservative people don't own Nazis. They're not your people, right?
What was the word you were? Tankies?
Tankies, yeah.
Who are these people?
Tankies are going to be like agitative, revolutionary communists.
The worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that you're not in bed with.
You're not claiming the commies?
Not a big fan of commies.
Well, thank you for at least on that. Yeah. By the way, Laura Pedrino wants to speak up because as you were saying something.
No, that wasn't.
She wanted to weigh in.
It was about a previous issue. I'll speak up. No, it was what you were saying before, and it's funny because you mentioned it, the minimizing of it. What I felt you were minimizing was the idea of erasing history. That was like a little bit too extreme to say that. I do think that was pulling back the curtain to what they're doing. Maybe not outright, but I mean, he who writes the codes rules the world, and they're writing this. There are people in the next generation that won't know things. This is where they're going to get their information from, because you're talking about historians and these people somewhere that are locking into history. Well, that might be all well and good, and I hope so, but for the most part, people are getting their information from this. If it wasn't so crazy outlandish, I would say if it was just like, I don't even know what percentage, less crazy, it would have been where we would have looked like psychos. Conservatives would have been like, this is nuts, guys. And then everybody, what are you talking about? This is how it happened. So because it was so crazy, it was good. It revealed something. It pulled back the curtain to like the lunacy in Silicon Valley or whatever of what's going on there. But had it not happened, this is the frog boiling. It's little things like this. This one just happened to be so insane, which great. It revealed some things. But I do think it's part of like trying to erase history or to rewrite it, not erase, but rewrite it. And it's evidence of that. And I do think there's going to be a generation of people that don't know what history is, because these are the people that are writing it. They're essentially creating a history that they want in their wokeness.
It would be a few generations away, to be fair, if that were to happen. But the issue is that we're entering into a time now where we're quite flippant about all of these technologies. And if you think about the way that AI is going to interact with the metaverse and all of these new technologies that are coming about, and then the fact that there is an ideological component to these and how they're all going to interact, it's going to build the world that we live in. So I think that I would hesitate to be flippant about that myself, about the fact that they're trying to erase an entire white race from history. I don't think it's something to necessarily be flippant about, but I can understand why you think that it's not necessarily potentially the biggest deal in the world, because maybe it's down the line. But if you just look at the levers of power and the way that, like you said before, the logical conclusion of it.
Malik, I want you to do a case example for me, and then we'll move on to the second one. Use Gemini and Google show an image of Adam Sosnick.
I think
okay? As a white guy, there's tons of images. There used to be a ton of images, because, I'm out there. Malik, see if you can pull up the first image you find of me online in the AI Gemini universe. Can you pull something up, Malik?
They did pull up a white guy. Did you hear what it was?
I don't know. Well, let's see what Malik's got.
No, but not for you. They put in fat man, bucket of chicken, watching TV, and that was the white guy that popped up.
Unbelievable. Malik, show an image of me, what you find online. There he is. I mean, are you? Is that? This is me?
You look tanned, bro.
He's a vitamin
you got some vitamin D?
Yeah. I got some vitamin D over the weekend. Respect. Thank you, guys. They're trying to erase the white race. I will say this, and then we'll move on to this other thing, because we're going to do some case examples.
Yeah.
As a Jew, I don't think that people would say, oh, you're Jewish, you're a white guy. You're not a tradition. Like, I don't know if you guys would say, oh, Adam's a white guy. It's just, I'm not in that world. But if there's anybody that, or a group of people, like the communists you talked about, the people I completely am diametrically opposed to are extremists. And who is typically the extremists? The neo-Nazis, the KKK, the white nationalists. And I've never heard one thing that I've agreed with. But as DEI and wokeness has come down the pike, and I see what they're talking about, it's making me ponder, they're trying to erase the white race. They're trying to take our country away. It's like, relax, Rick. No, they're not.
Yeah.
But as some of these stories sort of manifest, it's like, maybe Carl with the cloak has a point. Maybe Bill with the neo-Nazi sign.
Well, the thing is, though,
and the swastika, maybe is not as extreme as, because these people were cast aside as delusional psychopath extremists. But as some of this DEI woke AI chatbot comes out, it's like,
But
you can't even show a white image anymore.
It's a criticism that was inaccurate 20 years ago that later becomes accurate doesn't retroactively make the criticism that was made 20 years ago accurate.
What if it was a prophecy?
I don't believe in neo-Nazi prophecies. I suppose like the question that I would pose, what is the process by which AI is going to erase white history? Like what are we actually believing here? Because while I'll be the first to bite bullets that there is a left-wing agenda, that white guilt and Robin's terrible book went way too rampant and people took it way too seriously. I would agree with all these things that like whiteness is like viewed as this like parasitic bad thing, which is terrible. It's actually really unhealthy. The issue that I'm having with like the fear mongering is what's the process that we believe Gemini and other AI is writing out the white race? I don't see that process taking
Let me
over.
clarify. My thing was not about specifically this topic of whiteness. It was the idea of AI and the code writers trying to change history to the woke whatever. So I'm not even talking specifically about white, nothing about this specific instance. This to me was revealing, again, pulling back the curtain on what's there. But yes, I don't think that it is a flippant issue.
But I think you need this to happen. I think you need some of these things awfully to happen because then that leaves opportunity for people to come in and correct it and create a better program. You know, as we find glitches through these programs, right? Eventually, we're gonna have a Google that everyone relies on, right? Or there's gonna be a Chat-GPT that everyone relies on because no matter what you type in, you more than 99% get what you really need, right? Eventually, as we've seen within history, look, what 63% is versus the other, it will lean one way. So that's why, like, as awful as these things are happening, it's opportunity for people to come in and create the prime one that's going to be the reliable one for everybody. So
yeah, but I'm saying it wasn't an accident. Like that wasn't like a whoopsie. Like we did a bad job. That was intentional, is what I'm trying to say. Like
AI
that was on purpose.
Have a bias naturally. Either someone programmed it that way, or if it's a self-learning machine, it means that it's based off what it is interpreting. What is being put onto the internet.
No, there are guys. Let's be clear. There are programmers here.
You have to create Chatbot.
No doubt.
The question is though, what's the path? I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, like the path is the most important thing to outline. I'll be the first to be like, yeah, it sounds like some cringy, like overly woke programmers thought this was a good idea and they were dumb, just like.
But do you think that's what
every
happened here?
Hollywood writer right now is going on? The issue is I don't understand how it's rewriting history or undoing. So maybe you're like, it's not rewriting, it's our future history. But it's like nobody in the future is gonna be like, was Joe Biden black or white?
No.
Like who has any idea? Like I'm not
Joe
afraid about the white
Biden
race being
famously
lost here.
said, you know, if you don't vote for Joe Biden, you ain't black.
True.
Whoa. If you like that one, click right here to watch the full SOSCAST. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.